Say hello to my little friend. It's the nose. And you know what? It doesn't want any of those things that you're trying to sniff up there, so stop it. Hey everyone, thank you for watching DNews today. I'm Trace. Insufflation, or the act of inhaling something through the nose, is an ancient practice. Google's Ngram viewer finds references to insufflation all the way back to the late 1600s when the term was coined. Insufflation is even part of some religious ceremonies and was probably a way to consume tobacco before we learned to dry and smoke it. Even though it's harmful, snorting is pervasive in our culture. It's so visible a third grader was suspended in Atlanta for snorting crushed up candies back in 2013, and recently powdered alcohol, or palcohol, was legalized for sale in the US. And there are concerns that people will begin snorting that too, although according to the company's website, it would take an hour to snort enough powder to equal one shot of vodka, so I don't know why you would. That's neither here nor there. Even chocolatiers of today advertise the ability to snort their cocoa. So for when ingesting something isn't enough, people tend to follow their nose. Why is that? Well, the nose is a hole in the front of your skull with a bone at the top and cartilage at the bottom. It's divided by the nasal septum. Behind the nose are 4 sinus chambers, which together are pretty large, an average of about 15 cubic centimeters. They extend as far back as your throat and contain folds of bone and cartilage called turbinates to increase the surface area of the mucous membrane, which lines the whole internal structure. The membrane is densely packed with blood cells, which is why when you snort something, things get a little crazy. When a drug, like cocaine for instance, is mixed with hydrochloric acid, it turns into a salt powder, which can then be sniffed or snorted. When the fine powder hits the mucous membranes, it adheres to that and then is absorbed into the bloodstream. Once it's there, it heads from the nose down to the heart, then to the lungs to get oxygenated. Once oxygenated, that blood goes back to the heart and then all over the body. Though popular legend says snorting is the quickest high, smoking is actually quicker because the breath which oxygenates the blood carries with it the chemical compounds that cuts out the trip from the nose to the heart to the lungs and back again. The problem with snorting anything, though, is that the nose didn't evolve to process physical particles of that size and absorb them. It's sort of like a body hack. Over time, the mucous membranes wear down and stop humidifying air before it enters the body. That's bad. Even something as harmless as chocolate can cause scarring and damage to that mucous membrane. Continued use of cocaine causes perforations of the nasal septum, the bridge that holds up the nose physically. Sores can show up in the membrane, chest infections can result, and of course, nosebleeds, colds, inflammation, and if it gets worse, the collapse of the nose itself, not to mention, of course, a cocaine addiction. You can even lose your sense of smell altogether. If the tissue dies, flies can lay eggs and produce nasal maggots, which live in the sinuses feeding on dead flesh, although doctors admit that is extremely rare, so if you see a story about that, just be skeptical. Bottom line, just stop it. What do you think of all this, though? Tell us down in the comments, subscribe for more DNews, and make sure you keep coming back for more science.